Hello everyone, and welcome to the first installment of NTW3 multiplayer battles on this channel. Today's game is a 4v4 on the map Belgium 5. It is fought by the Austro-Canadian alliance against the Americans, the French of 1811, the French in Spain, and Italy. Italy is being played by Sergeant Wilson. France 1811 is being played by Tyler. France Spain is being played by Lupo. And the good old US of A is being played by Sammy Jojo. In Alliance number 2. In Alliance number 1, there are two Austrian armies. The one that will peel off to the left and cover this area will be played by Bill from HEB. The second Austrian army, which will keep going down the road and occupy the town and defend the houses, will be played by Phony. On the far right, we have the two Canadian armies. We have the army on the right, I believe, is being played by Lupo. Sorry, not Lupo. Being played by Ben. The army on the left, I believe, is being played by Dan. I might be mistaken. I did not get this information beforehand. They are sending their cavalry up to this plateau to sort of capture it before the French and the Italians do. If they can get this plateau, they have a nice artillery spot to cover the rest of the map, or at least the rest of the enemy armies. But if the Italians and the French get here first, they are going to have a hard time getting them off of this ridge with infantry. The Austrians are sending their very good and surprisingly effective light cavalry into the center to try to lure off any French cavalry that might run through here to try to either spot or maybe get a cannon or two from the Austrians. The cav on the left is there to flank around any French or American cav found in this general area. Oh, there's one. 12 chasseurs. The infantry is pretty slow, so it is still lagging behind. You can tell the speeds by the number at the end. The lower the number, the slower it is. The higher, the faster, obviously. The Canadians deployed their guerrilla troops near the houses as to get some early point advantage and a nice defensive position, while Dan also deployed his sneaky Shawnee scouts in the forest here so that they will not be spotted. They can march around and take out a cannon, maybe a general or two. The Italian cavalry has been spotted near the orchard in the center of the map. The Canadians will move cavalry and infantry to intercept them, so as to not let them take the orchard, a vital point, as it can flank on either side of the British or the Austrians. Right now it's just the movement of cav and cannon to positions that will most likely favor them. The four cheval léger lancier marching up the hill. Maybe they'll try to get a charge bonus on these Austrian cav. Lancer charge bonus plus the downhill buff will be pretty devastating to any cav, really. Just depends on their morale and if their quality or just there to fill in the gaps. The American cav has just been spotted in the center as well. It seems the French are not trying to engage the Austrian cavalry in the town. Here we see the first French 1811 infantry marching towards the town, going along the road to get that extra bit of speed. They will beat out the Austrians in a foot race, but they will not beat out guerrilla troops, obviously. Oh, the French have captured the hill. Or not the hill, sorry, the plateau. This will turn out to be a very, very difficult position to push them out of. The British will take many, many losses, but it'll also be a strong, strong attack on the Italians and the French. Here we see our first shots fired from the Muskogee warriors. Congratulations, lads. Quite an honor, quite an honor. Now the French player, I've seen this replay before, obviously, to see if it was worthy or not. He does a very peculiar thing. It's a mistake I don't think he'll do again anytime soon. He, without any cavalry support, or even his general, really, he decides to try to take the house, but he does not put any troops around to defend him from flanking fire from the rest of the Austrian army coming in here by phony. The army of Bill from HEB is blobbing its way to the left. His cannon are moving up to hopefully start taking shots at the enemy cavalry if they are spotted again. Right now, they have disappeared because of a fog of war mechanic. His cavalry is laid back, it is hidden. The French have started their assault on the house. It will not end well for them, as the Austrians will eventually envelop them, as the Americans are also nowhere to be seen to support him in this engagement. He shoots his own men in the back quite heavily. He charges in units that aren't exactly they're not exactly superstars when it comes to melee. And he keeps his troops back, leaving them vulnerable from Hungarian grenadiers, which actually are extremely good at melee, and the Grenzers, which are great at shooting for such a low price unit. Right now it is just an engagement here on the town. You can see Austrian units coming in to sort of try to envelop them. The Austrians, while not the most courageous army, they do have very nice stats, both shooting and melee-wise, depending on which units you bring. They have very good artillery, and quite a lot of it. Although they have not moved it up, they have left it on this hill here, which doesn't give them much of an advantage considering all these buildings in the way. But as you can see, the French are getting routed in the building while the Native Americans are staying in the building pretty much unscathed to this point. The French tries to flank around here with his skirmishers, try to get some flanking shots into those Hungarian grenadiers. These Voltigeurs are getting absolutely beaten back. They have lost 12 men so far. Oh, there go the Hungarian grenadiers into the building. Try to relieve the Muskogee. Voltigeurs run away as the Hungarian grenadiers also charge into them. The Iroquois warriors have come out of this house and marched their way over here to charge these Voltigeurs, to push them back, hopefully swoop around and start flank firing into them. On the right side, we can see the Italian and French lines deploying. Still only cannon fire, prodding with cavalry. There's a small engagement here in the orchard. The Italians have pulled back their light cavalry. You can see the Shawnee scouts that Dan has deployed in the back, moving slowly and creepily behind enemy lines. Oh, they have been spotted. They're running towards the French cannons on this hill. The French moving as reserve cavalry. Quite a controversial choice of cav units. Moving as cavalry to the left to now support the Austrian left, or his left, sorry. But that leaves his cannon and the Americans' cannons open to Dan's Shawnee scouts, absolutely just demolishing them. Although the American player does realize, but he realizes it quite late and only one Shawnee scout gets killed, the rest are able to escape. As you can see, the French have taken heavy losses trying to take this town, this building, while actually the Grenzers have been firing here for the entirety of the engagement, and they just now lost their first man. The French are getting absolutely slaughtered over here. We can see the first British cav try to take out those French cannons, which are just crucially, they are just in a perfect position to rain hell upon the British line there in the center. There comes the second cavalry unit sent by the British to just hopefully take out those cannons, but you just see they get blown apart. They're being guarded by the Marines de la Garde and some cuirassiers, as well as the tirailleurs of the Jeune Garde. The British on the far left of the French flank have just now started to move in to engage the French forces in Spain, while the Italian lines are sort of moving in to provide backup. This line is staying back due to the 12-pounders on that hill, although that does present quite an opportunity for Italy to just Italy and France, sorry, to just envelop, or at least try to force his hand. Back in the town, the French are still desperately trying to take this house. Napoleon has finally come forward to give his rallies and his inspires, but it's of no use. The French are getting absolutely destroyed. They haven't pulled back yet, which is a very costly mistake as they have lost 3, 4, 5 units thus far, and they've lost over almost half of a unit. If the French player decides to finally retreat to try to save his own men, the Italian has sent some support to try to hold off the Austrians from pushing the French player here too hard. Those Austrian howitzers are just doing some fantastic work. They have completely nullified the French reserve cavalry, killing 7 in the process. As you can see, the Austrian cav on the far right of the line has been sort of inactive thus far. The Austrian, aka Bill, has finally decided to push forward on this American to sort of relieve some pressure from Phony, but I think he's got it covered this far. The British are moving forward to sort of hit the French where it hurts, and the French are providing counter battery fire on those 6-pounders. Oof, absolutely beautiful. Oof, they got hurt. The Italian battery's also here. They have 3 12-pounders as well. Just an absolutely huge battery and quite a hard point to break through. Oh, but here come the British 19th Light Dragoons trying to take it out. Hopefully the French will react in time, although I don't know. Looks like they're gonna get them. Oh, they fire. Oh, but they kill their own cannon crew in the process. That's gonna hurt. That is really gonna hurt. There's a couple of Canadian units here in this orchard, sorry, hidden, but the French know they are there, so they have 1 unit there to make sure they are kept at bay. The American cannons get a lucky shot on the Austrians, and they destroy one of the cannons, routing the unit immediately. Action is mostly taking place on the far left now, as you see. The 85th Foot is just getting absolutely destroyed by the Swiss infantry and the regular French line. While the British are amazing shots, they are just too lacking in number, especially the Canadians. Oh, the Royal Montreal Cavalry feigned an attack on the cannons as to try to lure the cuirassiers. Ooh, they just took a cannonball to the face there. The British right is trying to push the French left. So far they are holding, although a severe lack of squares on this side. The British should have moved, maybe, instead of trying to take out those cannons. Would have been a smarter idea to try to move the cavalry to the right and just take out the hussars and those lanciers and just sweep that entire section of French infantry, supported by, of course, their line infantry, getting up close, shooting them while the cavalry is engaged. The Shawnee scouts have come from behind, although the French 1811 are chasing them. The fighting in the town has died down as the French have retreated. You can see these just destructive fight right here. French losing hundreds of men to the British, and the Austrians were just a handful of Germans. This is the first engagement up between the Italians and the Austrians, although the Italian is pulling back as he sees the Austrians reinforcing that line. The cannon has been broken. This sort of fortress, I guess you can call it, has been destroyed. The Marines, for some reason, not firing. Maybe after he put him behind the cannon, he turned off fire and forgot to turn it on. It's not much of a mistake, just a micro-wing. The Quebec Light Dragoons and the Quebec Fencibles are starting to open fire on these infantry, ready to hopefully do some damage. Let's see. Oh, nope, they're moving back. They're reforming. Oh, they're forming a square to prepare for maybe. Oh, no, they're just reforming to shoot at those Hussar units. These Quebec Fencibles, for some reason, not firing, taking losses for no return. These Fencibles also not firing. Oh, they just fired. Good job. The battle is getting heated up here as the men get within yards, within spitting distance of each other. The French Marines are still not firing. This is crucial as they are an elite unit. Having them fire at will prove to be a costly mistake, as they could absolutely tear apart these Canadians, as well as the Tillers. The French on the right are still engaging those three-line infantry. The Italian has pulled back his units to try to support on this flank. They would get enveloped, although they could stretch out their lines a bit more to hopefully get a little bit more damage done. On the right, still quite a lot of inactivity, just the American batteries just trying to maybe take out a couple men or maybe a couple units of cav. These Voltigeurs are still up here. They could be sort of moved over here to try to start shooting at these two. It's light cav, not really much going on in the cav department. Oh, some Voltigeurs coming in to start shooting at these 41st or these 100th foot. The British, you can see the British line just starting to getting demoralized from the just incessant musket fire at point blank range. The British are great shots, but they just do not have the manpower compared to France and Italy. These squares on the Canadian right have proved to be a nuisance to these cavalry units, as well as this 21st Fusilier, ready to prevent any of them from doing any damage. A French cavalry charge going in the middle, trying to charge the center. Oh. And... oh, the British line breaks. This is a very, very nicely done charge, although they failed to capitalize on it by moving closer to the enemy. Instead, they just stay back and allow them to regroup. A good idea would have been to maybe move closer to that square unit so they could just point blank it. See, like this guy. This guy's moving closer with 49th Foot. While the British are excellent gunmen, or musket. They have excellent musket firing technique. They're just no match for the just volume of fire being put out by the French and the Italians, especially at point blank range where accuracy is almost certain. You're almost guaranteed to get a hit. These cannons here, they're doing very nice work canistering these men right here, demoralizing them. But they're too close to the front line. They're starting to get shot by infantry. These Glengarries are getting sent to the left to reinforce the line. The British pull back over here. The howitzers are still firing upon the French line. As you can see, he lost many of his forces in the center there. Those losses will prove costly later on. There's Austrian cav moving around, trying to hopefully get those cannons. Excuse me. Now the British are the Italians are trying to push back the British off of this plateau and back into the plains. If they can get a downhill fight against the British, they're almost certainly going to win. The British here are seen trying to take out those Voltigitori, trying to break a hole inside of their lines, hopefully, so they can hopefully just push through. Although it hasn't turned out very well. Oh, they just got point blank that infantry of the line. The Marines are moving up. I'm pretty sure they still haven't fired a single shot, and they taken 40 casualties. It's not good. You can see the Austrian cav getting ready to take the cannons as the American cav is just absolutely destroyed by the Austrian cav. They were routed off the field, and they will probably not come back. The cannons have been taken out. This will prove very expensive to the Americans. The British still have not pushed these two units here, which could prove a nuisance to the French or the Italians, as they can push them behind and they would have to divert maybe one or two of these units to deal with them. Another cavalry charge coming up in the middle, probably against those Glengarries and New Brunswick. Oh, and very nice. Although they might get charged, countercharged by these Enniskillen Dragoons. But they're getting point blanked. But the charge does its damage as the Enniskillings also charge the rear of their own men. And here comes the cavalry reserve, the French and the Italians. Ooh, this would be devastating if pulled off right. This could be absolutely destructive. One of the generals here, probably Isaac Brock, has been shot or charged and killed. The Enniskilling break. That's the last of the good English cavalry left in the middle. The Italian and French cavalry just pushing through, leaving none alive. The British is getting run down, but again, a failure to capitalize on it as the Italians don't pursue the British. This will come back to bite them. Over here, actually, they are pursuing, but this is not the area where they should be. They're sending some hussars to try to take out those cannons. They might get a shot off. No, it seems like their cannons are gonna die. Ooh, nice cannon shot, although might be too little too late. Unless they get another shot. Ooh, That's good, maybe. And no, they got taken out. Oh, that was close. Yeah, failing to capitalize on this leaves this entire portion of British to just escape while taking extremely heavy losses, of course, in the center. They basically escape with their entire armies. There's finally an engagement between the Americans and Austrians on the right. This formation, while viable, is not very wise against Austrians, considering they can just outstretch your lines. They can... the Austrians will always outnumber the Americans. It is pretty bad idea to try to outstretch the Austrians. They will always have more men than you, so they will be able to increase the frontage at their will. These Canadian troops, again, could be used wisely. Oh, there they go. They're moving towards this edge to try to put some flanking fire into these guys. Oh, New Brunswick Fencible is getting charged by Italian light cav. They're not coming back anytime soon, arguably. The French and the Italians have managed to push off these British from the hill, finally. But the situation on the right flank seems dire as grenadiers and cavalry are seen getting ready to charge the American right flank, which will not be good considering they have no squareable units on this flank other than the Flotilla Bay sailors. If that unit breaks, their entire line up until the Pennsylvania militia will be unsquareable and can be charged at will by either the cavalry or the grenadiers, which, as you can see, are getting placed, just begging to charge them. The Americans try to do a U-shape, which means the Austrians can just focus fire on one area, and once that area breaks, they can just push through. The cavalry is still turning around. There's more cavalry behind them. The French have not engaged again. Looks like the Austrians in the town, played by Phony, have deployed to the left of the town, sort of in front of Bill's troops. They'll probably notice this incorrect in a couple of seconds. They finally move their 12-pounders up to try to do some damage to these French infantry. The Muskogee warriors are shooting at these Le Piedmont. These guys on the far left are just reforming their lines, getting ready for another engagement. Oh, these 5 hussars might get shot by these Quebec fencibles. Let's see how it goes. No, wouldn't. Although those Quebec fencibles, how they should be stopped, so they get shot by these 3 infantry, which will take a couple of them down, maybe. Yep, there goes one. The line has just re-engaged over here on the center. Although it is a bad idea considering the British are right next to them. The final cannons have been routed, as well as the Alabama Volunteers. As you can see, spaghetti line charge here against the Kentucky militia. Due to them being non-squareable, they will just get run down by both cavalry and grenadiers. Bill is pushing in with his far left here, trying to force the Americans into a unfavorable position for his men. The French seems to be pulling back. He's probably urging the American to do so, but the American is holding his ground. There's our cavalry has come back on the left flank. The center of the map itself has been quite quiet for the past 20 minutes-ish.
We have killed their general, sir. Now
See,
they must pray.
the Austrian cavalry just gets a devastating charge on the back of these American troops, and there goes that entire flank. And just brutal. First the grenadier charge, and then the cavalry charge from behind, just absolutely textbook. Because some cavalrymen touched the Pennsylvania militia, they're unable to square, allowing them to just keep just hitting at them. He's trying to charge in some more, trying to catch them all while they're flat-footed. The Americans finally retreat. Oh, here comes some more Austrian cavalry. Just absolutely just wreaking havoc on the American lines. On the left, the entire line has engaged now, although the Marines of the Guard still have not fired a shot. This is quite a costly mistake. These guys are not firing either, the Swiss or the line infantry. This spaghetti line over here is forming probably next to these skirmishers, although these Fanteria spaghetti lines have just now reformed to the regular lines. While these Volteggiatori are getting shots off on the British. The British have just absolutely just grinded down these Italian units. Although they themselves have taken many losses. Especially these Quebec Fencibles. These Glengarries, this 49th Foot has lost more than half. Right next here to the map edge, a firefight is going on, but on the right, just a mass rout of American units is taking place over here. The French forces have decided to back away to sort of take better defensive positions, while the American just tries to hold off this just Austrian horde of men. These dragoons are placed right next to the stakes, which will ultimately leave them to run into them and get broken later on. Standard firefight going on over here. The British are getting wore down. The Italians are getting wore down. Just carnage. Some Frenchies here on the road. Don't know why Phony isn't pushing these units. Guess he just hasn't noticed. He could probably push these guys along with their cavalry upon this road and maybe try to help the French, or just sort of cut off the French and American line of retreat. But there's only so much you can do with 4 units and a couple of cavalry units. Oh, 5, sorry. Oh, but he's sending his Deutschmeister to the other side along with his Grenzinfanterie and 2 other infantry units. Oh, 5 Hussars just charging into some cavalry rangers. Hopefully he just keeps charging them through instead of leaving them there. Yep. Keeps going, gets them behind enemy lines. Very nicely done by this French player. This Spain player is actually, other than just small things like the Marine de la Garde not shooting, he's done very well, considering this team is a clan team, and I'm not sure if they had Discord or not. They're doing very well for themselves. The right is a different story. The Americans are just in full-scale retreat at this point, just trying to reform their lines, and the French is trying to lend some support, but the Austrians just chasing them down heartlessly and efficiently, although slowly as well. I think this is Phony. He gets his cavalry around the French and the Americans. 1811 is sending his reserve cavalry to try to take it out, and at least try to prevent them from flanking them. He puts his Marines de la Garde there for some reason. Oh, but he's moving them to try to engage them. See, what these guys should have done was envelop this last remaining army while these units would sort of fend off these Austrians and British. And they could have crushed this army, and then it would have wreaked havoc. They could have then sent their armies to help the Americans and the French. The Americans and the French are pulling off back to this plateau, similar to how the French and the Italians made their stand on this sort of hill slash plateau area.
Our men are running, sir.
This line could have been swung around and just cut off these British. Because of their cavalry superiority in this area, they could not have held off. You force them to make squares, and then you just charge them with line infantry, and that is the way you beat a British army. That are just excessive cannon fire. You can see the French cavalry moving back over here to defend their flanks against the Austrians. These units, Phony is finally marching his units outside of the town. His howitzers and his cannons as well, or his howitzers and his 12-pounders, moving them over here somewhere to provide support. They're still sort of engaging, small engagements. Nothing more than skirmishes, really. Go back down to look at the face full of lead. Still just mass retreat over here by the American and the French. You can just see the carnage, just absolute carnage instilled on the Americans by the Austrian grenadier and cavalry charge. You can see the dead Austrian dragoons along with American line infantry. Just destructive. You can see the Italian is marching his troops over here to try to cut off or maybe try to encircle these men. 2 units hanging on this entrance, very wise, so that they don't get snuck up on by the Austrian and the British, since they do know there is a unit there. As you can see, the reserve cavalry trying to chase at C7. As a C1, that's not gonna end well, but as long as he can keep them away from his line, that's all good. Americans still pulling back. Looks like the British are sort of trying to make sure that they don't get encircled by... Ooh. It looks like Italy hasn't noticed that Isaac Brock, sorry. I'm about to shoot them up. Ooh, that's gonna hurt. There goes their dragoons. That's costly. It's very costly. Back over here, just retreat. Chasing by the Austrians, not much going on. This is sort of a calm moment.
Our men are running, sir.
Oh, and there go the Austrian dragoons I was telling you about that ran into the stakes by mistake. So they're out of the fight. But the Austrians, of course, still have just two, actually, units of cavalry on this side. They send 1 unit to take the LOC just in case the game doesn't finish in time. Just to make sure they get the LOC win. Right now they have 1, 2, 3, 4 LOC points. Along with this one, I believe. And it counts. Depends on the rules. Each player has its own sort of rules, whether it's you have to have a unit in the house or just near it, or just it has to be behind your lines. It's sort of by preference, really. It's like the French is sending units to help. The French and Spain is sending units to help France 1811, sort of cover this gap right here against Phony's units. The Karl's Legion, the Strassoldo, Reuskreuz, and Deutschmeister. Don't know what these guys are doing. I guess they're just trying to defend the point, make sure the Italians don't capture it. Very wise, considering they obviously do not have a numerical advantage over here. They have artillery supporting them. 12 pounders are setting up along with cuirassiers to defend them. These cuirassiers, you didn't really use them very efficiently. They just kept them to defend artillery, which was never really attacked in the first place. So, very inefficient use of those cuirassiers. The British artillery is moving over here to start pummeling on those Italians. This, I believe, is when the American player either dropped or he quit. As you can see, these units are gonna start making very erratic movements. They're forming a line diagonally to the enemy, sort of slanted towards them, which is very weird, very weird. These units are engaged in a gunfight, or a musket engagement over here. The Marines de la Garde still not firing. They've taken all of these losses without firing any shots, I'm pretty sure. Looks like there's British artillery. Oh no, it's just the 100-foot taking out those 5 Hussards. Oh, 5 Hussards run out of there. Very wise. Took out 3. Not bad. Not bad. Although, I guess the Italians sort of told the French to maybe engage, although I'm not sure. I guess the Italian sort of defends France's right flank while he engages. On the right, as you can see, the American player just starts erratically moving his line in front of the French. Well, the French is on the hill, so I'm quite certain he crashed, or dropped, or he just rage quit. Which obviously you should never really do. These games take quite a while to organize. It's very rude to the people you're playing with. Marines de la Garde are starting a march over there to the right. Try to plug this hole, or at least keep them from encircling 1811. Italy is still marching forward, although I don't know what he's planning to do, considering he can't see these men. I don't know if he's planning on marching straight up to the artillery, or I don't know what his plan is. Oh, looks like this unit is about to get gunned down by 3 Canadian. Oh, these carabinieri are down to 34 men. These must have a chevron or two to still be around with only 30 men left. And as you can see, they're just getting torn apart. This American unit is engaging this Austrian unit, although it will lose considering it has 40 less men. The French player very wisely stays out of the way of the AI, as the AI can mess you up pretty badly. Although this reserve cavalry could still come in useful. What he could have done, or should have done, is try to move it to the left, as only the Deutschmeister can square, and then on this line, none of them can square, actually. Wow, yeah, he could have just moved his cuirassier this way, sort of engaged this line so that they don't point blank his cuirassiers, and engage that unit and just charge it. It would be devastating. His entire line would eventually crumble if he just engaged full strength, along with these Italian honor guards. these men over here fighting. The Italians, with such little men, will probably lose this gunfight, considering the British are such just well-trained men. They are great shots. This part is just sitting behind his line, engaging the 21st. The Austrians are coming in to support the British left flank. Oh, looks like he charged his general to maybe get a kill or two, rout a unit. Now, what he could do is move these units, sort of like, put more pressure on these guys, as well as these skirmishers. Closer range, meaning more accurate shots. The American AI is just getting torn apart by the Austrians. Yeah, so as I said, the entirety of this French line can square, so his reserve cavalry should probably go on the other side, so where he can exploit the Austrian weakness where they can't form square. These Muskogee warriors are starting to fire on these Frenchmen. The Marines de la Garde, 43 losses and not a single shot has been fired yet by them. Their ammo pouches are still full. This unit is still protecting against the Deutschmeister. Looks like the Italians are trying to combat. Ooh, that was a nice shot by those 12-pounders over there. They are trying to sort of push the Austrian away. These men over here still fighting, clinging to their last hopes. I don't see why the French doesn't engage these couple of units here, considering that if he routs them, they're so close to the edge they might not actually come back. Oh, there goes the 1st Italian Line Infantry. 45 out of 123 men. They fought very bravely. The French player desperately stretching his line out to try to increase the frontage on the Austrian, but it won't work. His best chance would have been to hold the high ground there and maybe try to charge his Austrian line infantry. This plateau saved the French and Italian army over here while decimating the British. Might not have it would not have saved his army, but would have done quite some damage to Bill's army, Bill and Phony's army. Ooh, these British right here might get a point-blank shot. Oh, no, looks like they reformed in time. There we go, the Italians are engaging these Glengarrian 13th Foot Somerset. Sort of inefficiency is being shown here. Inefficiency with cavalry, inefficiency with this infantry over here, not really sort of pushing hard on, I think this is Ben, sort of not pushing hard enough to release some of the pressure over here, considering he has so many more men here than the British do. He could easily push and maybe sweep starting with this flank, just start pummeling the flanks and just try to form a better line. Because of his inaction, the British have been able to bring reinforcements from the orchard and from other places in the villages to sort of start hitting the Italians where it hurts. The Italians have been forced to fall back. The Marines are still not firing. The French player moving up, trying to get a couple shots off. 25th Infantry trying to take out a couple of Germans over here. Let's see how this goes. Nice, nice. Just absolutely beautiful smoke mod. And the sound of the muskets, the skins of the troops, very well made. The 25th line is done. Oh, they might get charged by cavalry, which will impede them. Ooh, they did not square in time. Now they need to charge those tierlers to get maximum effect on that charge. Or point blank them, that might be even better. Oh, no, it looks like he's charging them. Very nicely done. Very nicely done by Lupol here. First with the cavalry charge, and then with the and then with the tierlers, sorry. Now he chases them down with the lanciers, making sure they don't come back. And over here still fine. They've taken even more casualties, the Marines. This infantry is also not firing for some reason. Oh, you see, he uses the cavalry on the wrong side. Although it is a pretty good charge. There is a square unit over there, while there are none whatsoever on this flank. He is routing many of the Austrian units, though. He could capitalize on it. Oh, but here comes the Austrian cavalry. He might... Maybe... No. Looks like that reserve cavalry's done, unless he can route that Ulan quick enough to get that Dragoon. Oh, maybe. Yeah, there's Napoleon on this side. He might have gotten it. Here come the Guardia d'Onore. Oh no, they got point blanked.
Our men are running, sir.
Nice charge over here on the left, although he probably should have charged either those Hungarians or those Germans. There we go. Nice charge by those Lanciers de Berg on that Herzog, but they got beaten back due to that Deutschmeister square. See if the Marines will take their first shots here. And maybe... Come on. Nope. Nothing. They lost almost half of their operational strength. And they have refused to take a shot. Good job. Oh, looks like the Tyrlers had a failed charge against the Chasseurs. The Italians and the French are just getting absolutely beaten down over here due to the French just lack of initiative. It allowed the British and Austrians to just push hard on this Italian player. This is just a fight for their lives at this point. They're just trying to survive. They're not trying to win. They know they don't have the LFC points. The Quebec Fencible is just absolutely just point blank. Not very devastating, but him losing those units is a blow nonetheless. Here on the right, the Marines have finally taken their first shots. I missed it. No. Damn. It only took them 60 men to fire their first shots. Good job, boys. And he's almost routed that Muskogee. However you pronounce that, I don't know. And they're routed. Very nice job. Very nice job. Although they did sort of... Ooh, they got their reserve and their Guardia d'Onore behind the Austrians. So the Austrians now has to put units facing backwards. Very interesting. He could still charge, of course. Well, not really. They've lost their opportunity to get a efficient charge in. This V formation they've got going on here is not very smart, as the 7 British units can focus down and just... These 3 can focus down on that one. Well, these 4 can focus down on that one, while they only focus on maybe 1 on each side. It's not a very good formation. Oh, looks like the 21st Royal Fusiliers are going in for the charge against the Italian skirmishers. Oof. Italian skirmishers are gonna rout. They have terribly low melee defense stats. If he manages to... Yep. Oh. No, too little, too late. Those grenadiers are gonna get shot point blank. If they notice that they're actually charging. Yep, there they are. Ooh, friendly fire is about to happen as well. No. Looks like they turned off fire will. Let's see who will break first. Of course, the English line infantry. Oh, but then the grenadiers break. Interesting. Yeah, it's just very... Just lack of initiative by the French player sort of lost on this flank here. Although he did play very, very well up to this point. Keep that in mind. This French player is trying to retreat away from the Austrians. Oh, the reserve cavalry got attacked by the Austrians. Maybe point blanked even. May have missed it. Although he is bringing his 5 Hussards and his Guardia Nora, so they might rout that unit. They probably will. He might attack those, the Royce. They will definitely break, unless he manages to fire in melee. No, they're definitely going to break. Yep, there they go.
Our men are running, sir.
Looks like on this flank, the French and the Italians are starting to retreat. Might have pushed just a bit too hard on this side, well, not enough on this side. Again, that lack of just initiative to maybe try to push the British, or maybe even try to encircle them, did cost them heavily. Only 2 minutes left until the end of the game. At this point, the French are just trying to get as many kills as possible. They know they can't win, and it's over. All in all, this was a very, very good battle. A couple of micro mistakes here and there, but none that can't be fixed, really. Very, very good play. Very good play by the 1811 France. At near the middle and the end, at the beginning, he sort of wasted way too many men trying to take this house, which may have cost him later on. The American should not have stayed here for as long as he did, after he saw that he was facing 2 armies and an insane amount of cavalry against his. The British pushing up to here was very, very brave, although maybe a bit foolish. They probably should have pushed maybe farther away from where their cannons were. Maybe more square units interlaced into the non-squarables. That's just micro. That happens. These French are just getting gunned down at this point. They're getting surrounded by all of the enemy men. But Domenico, Pino, and Joseph Bonaparte will not surrender their armies. They will fight to the death. The right wing of the Italian army gets ready to fire at these 85th and Glengarry if they have the time. They have 10 seconds. Looks like the cuirassiers finally move away from the town and the artillery, although too little too late to do anything of note. These Zach line infantry shooting at the Guardia Nore. very good replay. All in all, it was a very nice battle. As you can see, Ben got 1,000 kills while losing 1,400. Phony got 747. He was the Austrian in the town. Bill got an astounding 1788, although he did have to completely annihilate the Americans and most of the French 1811 forces. Dan with 1,000 kills, mostly Italians, I presume. Although it was a pretty even match. They got about the same number of kills, with Sergeant Wilson 1,200, Tyler 1,000, Lupo 1,100, but Sammy Jojo only bringing up 548 kills. He was the one that either dropped, crashed, or left mid-game. You can see that Bill's Ulan number 2 got 235 kills and 2 chevrons. That's pretty nice. The 11, you can see that 3 out of his top 4 are cavalry, and then his 1 infantry is the grenadier he used to charge the Americans. So very good play. Very good game by both sides. Couple mistakes here and there. Should maybe that one drop was a bit unfortunate. Maybe he didn't drop. Might have stood more of a chance. Well, that's debatable. But yeah, it was fun. It was a very nice watch. But yeah, very nice game. Very nice replay to have seen. This is just the first episode. Hopefully many more will come if these are approved of by the community and by the actual mod makers, the lords. Thank you to them for making such an amazing mod. I know they put in many hours of work into their their daily lives into this mod and into just Napoleonic history in general. That's very appreciated of them. Well, this is the end of the video. It's been fun. I am Kaiser, tuning out.